People, if you hear that beautiful purr in the background, that's George. Let me bring it in. George's assistance today with purring. What I did here is I took I've been over the sample many times. It's magnified out to 500% right now. And then I have an image of it over here. I grabbed one of the layers here and I magnify it with the magnification 500x. And I started profiling when it looks normal. So over here, this would be normal. It does have a normal curve, so you can't draw a straight line. Just so if you try and duplicate this or think about it, you cannot draw a straight line. This is a curve. This is approximately the curve following one of these lines. And this would be the other curve following the finished product before they added the next layer on, the finished layer. And as you can see, a curve has developed. Now they said they sanded before they sanded after rather, after they and before they put the film on. The film has been identified by a sheet material, not a spray on. This initial adhesive piece between the lower level and upper layer. It's like a primer, if you will, to allow the epoxy resined carbon fiber to mate with the lower level. You can see the sheet itself can't buckle that much because they didn't sand it level. You can see it. You can clearly see that it's got a hump in it still. So this wasn't put on a mandrel and then used a lathe type machine in front of it to confirm that that it was consistently 1 inch. In fact, the first layer is the closest you get to 1 inch. Oops, hold on. First layer is the closest you get to 1 inch. If we pull this out, might have the tape measure on this one. Yeah. So there's 1 in 30 seconds, something like that. Almost. Well, you can say almost if you want. Okay, so that's 1, 2. I don't know if that's 4 or not. 4/100 of an inch, 1.400 of an inch, and then this is 2 point, and now we're up to 6 or 700th of an inch, and now we're up to 3.1 the width 1 point. So I got to add this, right? So you see it at 3.100 of an inch. But you got to add in that last bit because there's the 1 that starts here, or deduct rather. Here's your 2 here, so you deduct that, and it's about 1 inch. If I shove this up, so it's pretty close. And now this one is starting at the one. So the next inch would be right here. So it's pretty tolerant. I think it's pretty tolerant. I know it was written. He wrote it up as not that tolerant, and this would be 1. Maybe 3. So we needed 1.3 here. So that's pretty good, except for the profiling. If I take the tape measure from here to here, it's going to be tighter. It's going to be shorter, this band, and this will be larger. So let's go back to, just look at it in general out the outside. Let me do this. So this was the end piece, and this was on the floor. This is the sample off number 2. Titan 2, as I understand, and all showing the co-bonded layer structure, right? It says it right there. But I believe this is Titan 2, the piece they had on the sample they had on the floor. Now, keep in mind that you see this striation, this line here, and then there's another one mirroring it, and then there's others going this direction. Look, blur your eyes a bit if you want, and you can see the multiple striations. So when they cut this, to cut the ends off, unless they use a circular saw in 2 different directions to cut the carbon fiber, this was probably, however rough cut, and then the grinding took place after for inspection, and it looks like they use a disc grinder That means a rotating disc, not a sander, as people keep saying. Maybe it was a sander with a disc on it, but if it was able to leave a groove here. So this means it dug into the surface deeper, which would smooth out these lines here. And the same thing here would smooth it out. The more you use your sander, the more you're going to get a tighter finish. Think of your floor finishing. Here's that deeper groove there. So that's that deeper groove here, this one. And let's pull up the magnifier on it and see what we can learn from it. I'm not saying you're going to learn anything, but watch. So there's the deeper groove, not to be considered anything but the deep groove from preparation. What I do learn, though, is that, it's pretty fine. I don't see, in other words, I can still identify all the bands. I can start counting these all up, all these lines. I can count them all the way up. Remember, it's reported they used 1/2 inch ribbon, and that's interesting. Little stagger consistency, which would be a weak point. You can clearly see that's identifiable to me as epoxy resin that made this path here. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, which included a longitudinal piece at that rate. That's in there. And you just look around. I don't see too many more of them, maybe a couple there. 2 here. This is the largest one I found. 1, 2, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. And just going back to the sanding now, and there's the groove we're looking at. So what I put there, let me just jump to that part. Let's get rid of this. Vibrate the subject. So they have one that they didn't cut. Let's see what happens. Let's mimic or imitate it driving down the road. And you can't really do that because you can't duplicate the 100% same piece. But just try frequency on it. Put some vibration on it. Put it in a clamp and try to see if you can shake it. And see what happens just vibrating it, at a frequency of traveling down the road, for example. And if you want to know that frequency, I mean, you can literally strap it on the back of a truck that they use there, put a transducer on it, figure out the frequency as it travels down the road, and say, you know what, maybe this piece will be close to that, and so let's don't exceed that frequency. Let's don't exceed that frequency. And now let's go ahead and run it for, equivalent of going across the country back and forth twice. I think it's been back across the country twice, so somewhere about 6,000 miles or so. So run it, cycle it at that frequency for equivalent of about 6,000 miles. Of course, checking it as you go. And see just what happens if you get any delamination with that. And margin towards conservative, meaning don't increase your frequency, use less frequency. Check it out, and then do it again. Now, just grab this ribbon here, this band, and this band is here. If you look at it, it has, so here's the curve of the internal of the vessel, where they put it on a spool, if you will. And that would be I'm trying to remember the name of it, technical term they're using for it. It's the mold, right? They put it on the spool, and it mirrors it. That's what the people are going to be inside. So it just wraps around the outside. I'm going to zoom into this last one to try to figure out which one is it. Did they start it in? Oops. Did they start it in the longitudinal direction, or did they start it in the hoop direction first? And there's target number 1 right there, interface. So number 1 is, the other thing is they said that they couldn't determine whether, it's random how this would end. Maybe this ends on longitudinal and then this begins on longitudinal. They don't know. He wasn't clear about that. He says it's kind of random. Well, I don't know why it would be random. It's the same amount of lines. But it doesn't matter. Even if it was not random and you made sure it was 133, well, that all bets are off once you sand it off. You're sanding off the top of the carbon fiber and making it flat. So you're digging down into multiple layers, as much as 12, as I understand. So you take from 133 to 121. And then what's making up the difference is the epoxy is filling that void. And I'll get to that. But let's bring out the magnifier and see if we can, it's more than likely going to be a no-go. See, I can't tell unless they tell us. I can't quite tell. I mean, there's 2 here. See, so we know everything that's with 2 is the hoop. So theoretically, that's hoop. That is longitudinal. And then this would be hoop. If I can see it clearly, and I can't quite make it out. So everything is 2 is hoop, and then the other one. So if I can only make out multiples of 2. Multiples of 2. Remember, there's a glue line between. It's a glue on each side of the. Sorry, George. There's glue line on each side of the carbon fiber as it spool as it works as they lay it down. They lay down longitudinally the length of it without tension, and as they rotated it hoop wise on the outside, it was with tension. They don't speak of to what tension. I mean, it's as it pulls and rolls around, it's automatically in some tension. But they made it clear that the longitudinal direction was not equal to that tension or greater than. Thinking of post-tensioning, and you only have one layer of that. If you get rid of all the longitudinal hoops, you have nothing to bridge besides epoxy, to bridge the one side to the next. Oops, let's do large. No. Okay. So then let's do large. So these are let's say these are the hoops, right? Let's just do that. These are the hoops as you can see them as you face it, as they're rolling it on the spool. And you can put these right together in your mind, but right now I'm going to keep them apart from each other. As you can see, as pressure comes down here, it just can, as it flies down the road even, these things can just shear from each other. And the only thing keeping it from shearing from each other would be the glue between them, from shearing from each other. Now, if I were to put every third member a ribbon, a carbon fiber section here. Let's see. Now I put this there all the way around, wrapping around the subject, right? Don't look at it as flat. Think of it as wrapping around too, also rather. And pushing, in this case, it would be pushing in and trying to buckle down the bottom even. The weight from it. Shit. Now, I want to finish this video, so I'm going to tell Mom. I'll call this. Hey, can I give me a couple minutes? Call you right back.
Okay.
Thanks, bye. All right, sorry guys, it's a work. I've got to call them right back. Give them something, some data that they need. So the what we have here is at the end. So I'm going to make this in parts, the videos. So now it can't push in. Remember, they want to push in. The hoops want to bypass each other. But the one band, and they're on top of each other also. They're always wrapped, but there's only a single layer of those versus two of the other one. So these are all wrapped together all the way around. It's not gapped like that. And then they added the other layer, the two layers of this direction, the red again. I showed you that with the sample. And then they added another layer of this, and that's how it acts like a strong back. So let's go ahead and turn it this direction for you now. Turn it this direction. That's the longitudinal version. And this would be the hoop version. Hoop coming this way, 2 to 1. Trying to think if I should. I'm trying to give you an idea of what 2 to 1 looks like by having it larger. And I didn't quite do that correctly, did I? Probably could have done better. So I could probably put the yellow here, and then literally pick the one that was this one. Yeah. So that's that one. Let's do that again. Let's take a look at it. It's this on the scale, so 2 up is here. Not quite. Not quite. Let's do that. Let's just double it up. Let's literally just double it up. There we go. There's your 2 to 1 to be more precise. And you see it's overlapping a bit there, which works great. So there's 2, and then there's the other one. And now see how it overlaps? I'm going to move the magnifier over. Magnifier is behind it. So let's grab another magnifier. Okay. So here it is, 2 to 1. So you see the way that works? So it's it will be one that direction, one of these that direction, and then multiple 2s on top. You see the depth? I should be able to grab this over and it might fall in behind it. Oops. And it does. Let me change that color to help you visualize. So I'll do with green. Let's push green behind it. Oh, great. Sorry about the little curve on it. Probably wouldn't hurt us in our thinking here. All right. So now hopefully you can see it better. It's 2 to 1. So there's 2. That would be the single band. And 2, and then 2 to 1. And you can see the overlap now building up. And I did the model for that, so hopefully you can see that in the model. But now you can maybe see it here. And this brings us back to this thing. All right, so I profiled it for you with this coloration. There's green and multiple colors, so you can see the wave of it. It's pretty much, at the red line here, it's pretty much equal all the way up. You'd have to use a measurement to confirm that. Same thing calipers. Same thing here. And it's pretty much equal, maybe more like down here. Because see the ramp up right there with the white? So probably down to here. And this is pretty much equal. This curvature. I might even be able to bring it all the way down to here. So now we have this profile that's changed in literally the real material, which we could measure literally from here to here. And this creates a profile, a wave that goes all the way up to the top, the exterior of the vessel, that's no longer going to behave like the right side of this red line or the left side of this red line here. So this wave, as you can see, it's not just a hump, it's also a dip. It's an incline, and then it comes back around, and I'm sorry, here's your dip on this side, or an incline, however you like to look at it. But the weakest point after they sand it is what's missing. I'm going to do a straight line for this. I should do a slight curve. Okay, slight curve. Let's give you a color of purple. And let's make it larger. Okay. Trying to see the curvature over here to the right to match it. All right, so let's bring this over to here where I'm saying it's, whoa, that's a huge difference. So this part here is what comes out. This is the part that they decide that gets ground out as it comes up. This hickey here, if you will, is literally, not figuratively. It's let's see if I can mirror it. I'll change the color of it. Ah, fuck me. One more time. I needed more mouse. I ran out of mouse stroke. Okay, so I want that back. And I apologize for the jitteriness of it. And let's give a, let's do that. So now let's put this where the new line starts. Here. This is where they start the new film. And even this ramp up a little bit. Should probably just push it up a little more. You're right about there. So all of this has been sanded out. What we're looking at here is a wave of into the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 lines. But it's still a waveform back here. It's just that they happen to make it flat here to start this. But doing so, they cut the bands. They cut the bands of this. And I'm going to show you on, this video is being edited. So it's going to add the, I'm going to show you on some piece of tape a theoretical thought. 2 thoughts. One is, during the process, these high points were made during the rolling of it, when it was wet form. The other one is transportation, that it consolidated during their 1 hour and 15 minutes transportation from the vacuum, single vacuum, 1 atmosphere pressure that they were able to create in the vacuum. I think that's all they went for. They probably could have made it tighter, but apparently that's what it went for. They don't talk about the thicknesses to tell us that. So they don't, like in other words, they wrapped it, 133 layers wrapped with the glues without the interface adhesive applied. So the first one, how thick is that while they're transporting it? And then when they get to the other end, when they get to the other end, an hour and 15 minutes away, they go to autoclave it. Did they check the measurements again and said, oh, we're exactly where we left at? We put it on a lathe, basically, a spool there. We put a low budget gauge here. We spun it, and it didn't push the gauge at all. And then we slid the gauge down. We spun it didn't push the gauge at all. As you spin, it would just be a low budget indicator. You don't need much for this. So as you spin it, it rolls to that position, no problem. No problem here. So this is your point. This is just clamped down somewhere. But when we get here, all of a sudden it pushes back on the gauge, and you see it profiling back. And the profile's back on the backside, guys. Back here is where it's being made. And you see it rise, and you're like, wow, that's definitely a high point. But when you left the factory, yeah, I'm getting beat up today. I'll have to come back to that one too. When you left the factory, where you first manufactured it, it didn't have this profile. So that would tell you that during transportation, consolidation took place where it created this new waveform. If it was already there when they left and then they get to the factory and it's the same waveform, if they did do quality control, they would have done something like this, considering it's going an hour and a half. And not thinking that, oh, the vacuum's good enough. It's going to hold it tight to the mandrel, is what I was trying to say earlier, to the mandrel. And so there will be no consolidation. All right, so let's just go with that thinking. All right, so there's no consolidation. That means after you autoclaved it, there was consolidation. And I'm going to show you in a sample with the tape. I'm going to show you buckling. They call it wrinkling beforehand. Well, if it's beforehand, the first layer, after the first layer, how come they didn't say, well, we got to resolve this? I'm sorry, it would have shown up on the second layer. How come on the second layer they didn't say, hold the, stop the presses? Nikki Vale's here, Nikki Vale. So why didn't they say, we've got to resolve this? Here's our first layer, beautiful. Second layer, we're doing this and we're grinding. Hold on. We've got to figure out what we're doing wrong here, what we're missing. Nope, full speed ahead, grind it out. Grind it out, grind it out. All right? Grind out, and they're getting waves in it. And it should not be, it should be considered a reduction if you're going to grind it out. It can't be considered, oh, no love, no loss. Because when you take out all these multiple layers here, you now going to replace it with, it's replaced, you're not replacing, you're not adding anything, it's replaced, trying to get a string, it's replaced with glue is what's got to do the bridging now. So from here to here, since you cut bands out, let me remove that, let me change the color, this is glue, all right, this is epoxy that's ground out, so it's epoxy. Okay, that didn't quite work out, but maybe I can still save it. There we go. So this is epoxy, and this is all this section in here is epoxy. So let me do this. This is all epoxy in here. And it cuts the bands. See the continuous bands? So you cut remember I said the longitudinal and the horizontal ones? It cuts these bands. These bands are just deleted. They're just deleted. So it can no longer behave the same way as they were intended. Now, that would have, now on the reverse side up here, you can see the wave, the duplication of the wave. And somewhere like that. Somewhere like this. See the wave? See the curvature as it works its way out to this layer? And then they sand it, and now they start off with a baseline again. But you can see the wave. And it's not for free. That means that this section over here under pressure will not behave the same as here, nor this side. So all three of them combined, they create a weak point as they have determined from many of their testing. And that the fracture usually happens upon a point of a wave where you lose continuity. It makes sense. See, this is more consistent. The wave creates stress points, shear zones, and that would be down here. Let's get rid of this. Oops, cancel this one. All right. So it would make sense that this would be, especially because you cut this now, that you no longer have continuity. It's epoxy trying to bridge it. And epoxy is not great for bridging. All right, it's great for adhesion. It's great for a lot of things. But it's not great for, hey, I'm going to bridge. I'm going to replace the carbon fiber with epoxy, is what they're doing. The carbon fiber has the modulus of different behavior way exceeding the modulus of epoxy, the behavior, if you will. And the epoxy just can't behave the same. So you have two different forms of behavior under pressure, and epoxy is more brittle than the carbon fiber. And so it says, you know what, yeah, we picked this as the weak point under pressure. Yeah, this is the weak point. If you're going to pick it, you would pick it where you cut fibers. All right, I've got to make this phone call, and I'll get back to the video editing and adding more to this, I guess, as soon as I can. Okay, so this is some tape I found that I just, you know, had laying around for some time. And what happens is to tape, it shrank and it buckled the interior, and this is not moisture related, it wasn't in a wet zone, it's not water damaged. It buckled the internal cardboard. It fractured it, as you can see. It shrank, but interesting enough, it gives us these wrinkles, as they refer to them. And if you take note, watch when I flip it over. It's actually on an angle askew. It didn't just buckle straight this way as the whichever end it started from first. It started and then it changed its behavior and shifted either from this end or that end. And it's with each one. This one's being larger down here than down here. So I would probably argue that this side, okay, Cameo. Hey George, you gonna join in? I'm over here, George. Oh, I gotta rub him now. Hold on, he's on the camera right being rubbed. So I'd argue that the larger, yep, here we come. The larger section. Okay, George. Yeah, good boy. Well, let's just turn the camera here towards you while I talk. All right. If you don't mind, George, I'll still do this with this there. Now imagine if I, oh, lighting. Let me click a couple lights off here. Okay, there we go. Oh boy, George. Sorry about that, it's metering. Okay, here we go. So imagine if I, let me kill some more light. Yeah, someone's going to bless you for that. So imagine now that this blister's here, this buckle, and I decided to cut it. Just sand it out, in other words, to make it even. We'll go a little more lighting into that. That I decided to sand it out. I want to keep George in, but I need to zoom in. George, you're moving it. You're moving it from the zoom position, from the focus position, George. George, hold on, dude. So, they just sanded this off. Imagine I just take a utility knife and I would just cut this off. Just, you know, I want to make it even. Let's just do that. Let's just make it even. There we go. Now it's flat. Now it's perfect. This doesn't exist anymore. I made it flat. I fixed it. But look what I did. You know what I did here. I took away multiple... George is pushing the hell out of me right now. I took away multiple sections. Come on, George. The knife stall. That's not going to cut him. George. Yeah, for proof of that, Lee. George, you're going to have less of a tail. When you prove me wrong, you're going to be running around with them bobtails. Alright, so I'll cut back towards my finger to prove you. Alright, and I can't continue that. It's not my nature. So just get rid of this. Now the buckle doesn't exist and it's nice and even. And then start again. But you see what happens is this part's gone now. It's not gone for temporarily, it's gone forever. And all of the matrix is gone, and now you create this new matrix, looks like that, where you the epoxy is the only thing bridging it now, and you see the feather look, and now it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You just can't do that. And they didn't do it in one spot. They did it in multiple spots. So there's one, there's a little one there. So let's just go ahead and take that little one off, right? Good, he's gone. Let's go ahead and just take off these layers here on this one. Yeah, okay, that's fixed. Alright, so now that's fixed. Oh, this one's a little bit heavier. Let's go ahead and fix that. Oh, there's George playing with the computer now. Let's go ahead and fix this. Alright, that's fixed. You see it's not really fixed, is it? Let me see if I can turn this to macro for you. Hold on. Alright, this is a hint to the next two parts that are coming up. This is going to be some great information here for you, talking about how the rear end fell off. The hint is, take note. There is no weld there. There is no connection between those two pieces. Well, there's no two pieces visible to us. So that's your hint for the next video. It is an hour long, the next video. I've got to edit a bit. This one is as short as it is, but this is the teaser for the next one. And then there's another one after that, and another one after that. But I'm going to call them part A, B, and C. Unless it winds up rolling into a D also. But this will have a story to tell that you should enjoy. So hang in there. The way I teach, I have to give first the background data. You know, you just can't just jump into right into the deep end. I've got to give you background data first, get you up to speed, get you so you have the background information. Quite a few people jump in with comments, and I'm like, look, I've answered those questions many videos back. Or alter the position even. This is now supporting my tail end falling off. Not my literal tail end, but their literal tail end, that literal tail end. Alright, hopefully NIST is looking at this and they'll say, NTSB rather, and that they'll say, oh shit, we didn't see that. and they'll help me stay unshadow banned from the lovely people at YouTube, and hopefully YouTube keeps me out of the box. I'm staying away from politics besides the other channel. You can catch me on Rumble for that. I'll cross it a little bit maybe. Love you. Bye.